Mudskippers, wacky and interesting fish. Mudskippers, speciation and variation. Mudskippers are in the scientific classification of the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Actinopterygii, which is interesting because unlike other terrestrial species, they evolved from the ray finfish, unlike us who evolved from lobe finfish. So, even though they're semi-terrestrial, they are more closely related to things like goldfish, lionfish, and catfish. They are then in the order Gobiformes, which are gobies, a common species of tankfish that are common order or grouping of tankfish, which are kept as pets, the family Oxcursidae, and the subfamily Oxcursinae. Mudskippers range commonly from Africa to Australia, with a variety of diverse species overlapping in several different kinds of habitat. They can live in fresh, salt, or brackish water, and no species is known to live exclusively in any of these kinds of habitat, any specific habitat. Mudskippers are considered not an evaluated species on the IUCN Red List. This does not mean they aren't endangered, it just means they haven't been extensively researched enough to determine if their populations are endangered. General characteristics, anatomy and physiology. All species are characterized by a couple key characteristics. Firstly, protruding eyes set near the top of the head, an elongated body with spiny dorsal fins, eyes which can be rolled back into the head, and eyes that can be rolled back into the head to replenish oxygen. They can range in size from the smallest 4.1 centimeters of the New Guinea slender mudskipper to 27 centimeters, the giant mudskipper. Their diet, all genera within the subfamily Oxcursidae, are predators who feed on small fish, invertebrates, and other small prey items. The mudskipper observed here is a blue-spotted mudskipper. General. There are 10 different families of mudskippers in the subfamily Oxcursinae, which includes the Apocrytites, with only one member, Apocrydon with 2 members, Boliphthalmus with 6 members, Oxcurdices with 2 members, Parapocryptes with 2 members, Parathomalodon with 3 members, Scartilios with 4 members, Pseudocryptes with 2 members, Paraphthalmus with 19 members, and Zappa with 1 member. Differences between species. Species can vary significantly in their morphology, the most prominent variations occurring in colorization, fin size, distribution, and eye placement. As can be seen even here, 3 of these individuals, A, B, and C, are closely related to each other, while D is a sister grouping to them. As it can be seen, they vary greatly in even their positioning of the eyes, the size of their eyes, the color of their fins, and the size of their individual fins. This occurs because they often use territorial displays and like to raise up their fins to both defend themselves and attract mates. Interesting mudskippers. There are a variety of interesting mudskippers, and there's so many to talk about that I've isolated a couple that I find interesting. First off is the Zappa group. Zappa is a family of mudskippers endemic to New Guinea and is only known from the lower parts of the Bituni, Ramu, and Fly rivers, along mudflats adjacent to rapid and turbulent water. This is one of the interesting things about this species and mudskippers in general, is that they vary so greatly and overlap so significantly in their habitats that they have evolved to prefer very minute differences to create specific habitat for them. As seen here, where the New Guinea slender mudskipper prefers to live in rapid and turbulent water. The interesting thing about this grouping is that they're named after the musician Frank Zappa. I don't know why, I just thought it was a cool fact. The other interesting group is the Paraphthalmodon group, a genus of mudskippers which can be found along muddy shores, estuaries, and lower reaches of rivers in Southeast Asia, Papua New Guinea, and Queensland, Australia. They're represented by 3 members, Periophthalmodon fericintei, or the pug-headed mudskipper, Paraphthalmodon schlosseri, or the giant mudskipper, or Paramethomodon septimirandus. The one observed here at the bottom is a giant mudskipper, or Paramethomodon schlosseri. The most interesting of these 3 is Paramethomodon septimirandus, which is interesting because it has a couple key characteristics that make it a very unique mudskipper. Firstly, they're found along the shores of the eastern Indian Ocean in brackish marine freshwater from India to Indonesia. They can reach a size of about 10 centimeters and prefer to live in habitats with low salinity and with large amounts of vegetation cover, such as by mangroves or the knife palms. Again, this is one of the things mentioned about mudskippers in that they have varied so much that they now species prefer very specific or minute variations in their habitat. The very unique things about the specific mudskipper is that it is one of the only fish known to communicate acoustically outside of the water, using grunts and other vocalizations to communicate both territorial displays, mating displays, and then intercommunicate danger and other such signalings. Another thing that's interesting about them is for a fish, when they're alarmed, they will actually escape onto land, dashing towards vegetation and other cover to hide instead of retreating into the water, something that is different from other mudskippers, which are commonly observed dashing into the water to escape.
Mudskippers display quite a few interesting behaviors. Probably their most notable behavior is that of their ability to survive on land. Because of this, they are considered to have an amphibious lifestyle. While the amount of time they spend out of water varies between species, they have all been documented spending at least some time each day out of water. This ability can come in handy in several different ways. Not only does it protect them from predators in the water, but it also allows them to cover more ground in search of food for things like insects not found in the water. This gift shows how they use their fins to push themselves around on land, usually in mud flats like this. But with an amphibious lifestyle must come the ability to switch between breathing in and out of water. Mudskippers are considered facultative air breathers since they rely mainly on gills, but also come up to the surface to breathe air in low oxygen waters. This is different from the average bony fish, which is considered an obligate water breather. They are able to spend days on land at a time because they can absorb oxygen through their skin, mouth, and throat, which is considered cutaneous respiration. They also store oxygen in the burrows they make on land. These burrows provide even more protection, not only from predators, but also from desiccation of themselves and their eggs, which brood on the walls of the burrow. The behavior of mudskippers can also be determined by the tides. In high tides, they typically either return to the water or hide in their burrows, which usually look a little something like these photos here. They are most active during low tides. This is when they will search for food, build burrows, and when the males will court the females. Once a female and male mate, hundreds of eggs will be laid and fertilized in the male's burrow, where he will protect them from predators and provide a constant supply of oxygen until they are ready to hatch. Fin displays are used for more than just attracting a female. Mudskippers are actually quite territorial and will fight others that trespass into their area. These burrows come in handy for dividing up the space, but that doesn't always stop neighbors from trying to intrude. This video of South African mudskippers demonstrates the physical altercations that can erupt.
Challenge accepted. The intruder makes a sucker out of his opponent. The goal isn't to harm, but to scare him into giving up his turf. But the neighbor breaks his hold, rebuffs him, and declares victory. The intruder sulks off into his lair.
A fun fact about this unique and one-of-a-kind mudskipper is that they're the only known fish to have the ability to climb trees. They can also climb rocks or other surfaces, but because of their unique pectoral fin, the adapted suction cup that is their pectoral fin, they have the ability to move and to really suction themselves onto the trees. So here's a quick video to show this in action. So they're jumping out of the trees. and that video is seen of him jumping off and into the water. You can also see in this video just how high that these guys can jump. See, and he suctions himself just like that. Another cool thing about these fish is that they have the ability to jump up to 2 feet into the air. So you can kind of see this in the picture and you saw it in the video, but because they have a fish-like body, they're able to propel themselves up that far. So some environmental impacts of mudskippers, they're actually pretty cool when you look at them environmentally, but they can really help their environments. And they've seen in some areas of you can use the genomes of the mudskipper to produce the antibacterial peptides for fish food supplements. They're also seen bringing into wetlands for bird attraction. So an example of this is they were added into a wetland park in nearby Hong Kong to attract birds that are going to feed on them and then improve the condition of the Chinese city. So this is cool to bring in more environmental life into the area. They're also used as an indicator of coastal water quality. So scientists can actually study how abundant mudskippers are in the area to see how well it's doing in regards to pollution or just different things that might be affecting their population. They are also a keystone species. So this means that they have a big impact on their environment, and other species in the area rely on them heavily. So if their population were to have any drastic effect to it, most likely the other species in the environment would be affected as well. So the last thing, you're probably asking yourselves, where did they come from? How did they evolve into a species that's able to live 90% of their life above ground? Well, scientists have kind of debated this over the time, but when you look at the fossil record, modern mudskipper is morphologically the same as the first found mudskipper. So fossil record shows that there's no change from the first found mudskipper to the modern mudskipper. But, however, more studies have been done to show genomic indications of there could have been adaptations and evolution here. And so some things that they've studied from the genes are that the innate immune system shows a big gene expansion. There's also positive selection in ammonia excretion of the gills found in the genes that they've been able to study. And this ammonia excretion is helpful for them to breathe outside of the water as well as to remove waste from their bodies. And it's also seen, their genes show that there are vision-related genes that have been lost or mutated over the time. So while there's no solid answer as to how these fish evolved, there are some theories and conflicts surrounding their evolutionary past. So this is the mudskipper, a very cool and unique fish.